right. Well, speaking of investments, we always like to end on the fun one. And OpenAI never fails to give us fodder to talk about on this show. So they introduced what appears to be a pretty remarkable technology. I mean, it always is amazing what they are able to produce. But they produced within ChatGPT itself. Now you can generate images without having to use. Oh wow, I'm just escaping on what the other image generation tool that they have. Um, Whatever. Anyway,
Are you thinking of Dolly? Or are you thinking of
yeah. Sorry. Thank you, Dolly. So without having to use Dolly, which is how it's worked up now. If you ask it to generate an image, it was calling Dolly. Well, they've now baked it in directly, and as part of that, they had the ability to do different styles, and of course, one of those was Ghibli. And I know I'm probably
Mhm.
aging myself because I'm not that familiar with any of it, but it created quite the firestorm and all of the sort of craziness where people are going off and doing all this. And I think Sam Altman's quote was, "They're melting our GPUs because there is such demand over all of this." So it was a little bit crazy.
Yeah, first of all, I'm a huge Studio Ghibli fan. Princess Mononoke, My Neighbor Totoro, fantastic stuff, and adorable little cartoon characters. But I think this speaks to how easily generative AI can imitate a style that is well documented. Basically, any artist's style. It could have been Picasso, it could have been Monet, it could have been Michelangelo, but that honestly, that wouldn't have been as pop relevant for today's meme filled culture. So instead, they did Studio Ghibli. Of course, Studio Ghibli's creators are not super happy about this, but there's not too much they can do about it with the current uh, legal standards that apply. We haven't really said that data fed into a model is copied by protected by copyright or can be licensable for model training as of yet. So we're in this weird stage where I don't think these rules have really been defined yet. I'm not saying that it won't ever happen. I think all this stuff is still being decided in the courts. I haven't really heard that any of these lawsuits have been finished off, and I'm sure that the likes of OpenAI and Microsoft and other lawyers will make sure that these lawsuits take as long as possible uh, to decide.
Well, so the serious part of this, I think there's a couple of serious parts. I think that situations like this are going to bring the copyright question more and more to a head, where there's going to be increased pressure to resolve it. And regardless of where you stand, I think the fact that there's ambiguity creates risk if you're a CIO, and so that opens the door. I think this goes all the way back to where we started the conversation and the differences in approach with Databricks and Anthropic and that sort of full approach versus what OpenAI seems to enjoy doing, right? And look at, to their credit, I mean, they massively stir the imagination. They get people excited. It's this meme driven sort of thing, and that's
Huge
what caused
viral
all this.
moments.
Yeah,
Yes.
massive viral, right? Everyone's sharing these things. Everyone's going to they Altman, I think today reported that they had 1 million signups the day it was announced,
Mhm.
which for a point of reference, when it was first announced and it had took the internet by storm, it had 1 million signups within the first 5 days, right? So massive explosion of use. And let's all remind ourselves, if you're watching the show, you're probably not part of this group, but or you are part of this group, this very small group of us that we are very tuned into all of this, that 80% of the world still has, or 80% of even like the Western world has still never used AI, right? I mean, so the fact of the matter that anything that they do to stir the imagination is sort of opening up new parts of the market and exposing more people to what this is, even if it is in the form of a meme. The risk is that it's just this flash in the is that right? Flash in the pan. Yeah. It's just this like,
Mhm.
boom moment. Everyone goes, wow. And then it doesn't actually have a lasting impact because how many times am I going to do that? How useful is that really? Right. And so I think that's sort of the interesting part. And so I would sort of question the strategy. I don't know. I don't think of it the right
Well,
way, but
if nothing else, the OpenAI at least got 1 million new faces a million new photographs that they can now use for facial recognition and generation.
No doubt, and we now have when an X user say they now have generate a sexy man images all over. Apparently, what is interesting about the last little seriousness news about it is this was I think I've talked about this joke before from the first days of .com about where people all excited goes, oh yeah, look how great it is, and it's like, oh no, look how great it is, and apparently they're having one of those moments where they've had to ratchet back both the exposure on the copyright side as well as just the impact. They apparently were metering the number of images you could create, and now the last effort is they shut it off entirely. I'm sure it's a temporary thing, but all this sort of happened to reaction because they just didn't anticipate this sort of
Mhm.
response. But just another crazy day in the world of AI, I guess, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.